neutrality during World War I. Yesterday we talked about the causes of World War I and how the long-term causes were militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. But the spark of it was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The United States remained neutral from 1914 until 1917. We declare war in April of 1917. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at reasons why we stayed neutral. We're going to look at reasons why we start inching closer to war, and then finally why we declare war. All right, so let's get started. Okay, before April of 1917, the month and year that Wilson asked Congress for a declaration of war, the war was at a stalemate. That means no one was winning and no one was losing. Okay, World War I's unlike any war that we had fought before because there's a lot of new technology, like mustard gas and machine guns. Mustard gas, yeah. We'll actually cover that later on, but I'm bringing it up now so you guys can see that it was a different type of warfare. Along the western and eastern fronts of Europe, both sides will dig trenches, which are deep ditches, and they'll fight from those trenches. So the war was dragging on. No one was winning, no one was losing. But there were high casualties on both sides of the war. Okay, so it doesn't look like the end of the war is anywhere in sight. This is before the Americans come in. Okay, do you have questions? Do you need a second? Okay. Okay, so America, we're going to try to remain neutral. Let's look at reasons why. Reasons for American neutrality. One, it was seen as a European affair. It was seen as none of our business. Okay, so Europeans, they fought wars all the time. We stayed out of all of the wars that Europe fought. We didn't have a whole lot to do with other countries. You know, we did trade a little. We had engaged in imperialism a bit, but we pretty much stayed to ourselves. Like I said, European countries fought wars all the time, and we didn't see a reason to get involved. It was seen as a European affair. It didn't threaten us. Okay, it's way over there on the other side of the world. It doesn't affect us. There were too many nationalities here in the United States. So if you guys remember, you know, it's 1914. Many Americans are first and second generation immigrants. We had a lot of people in our country that were of German ancestry. So they're not going to want to declare war on Germany. We had many people who were here who were Jewish, who escaped from Russia. They don't want to fight on the same side as Russia. We have people here from Ireland. They don't want to fight on the same side as the British. So there were just too many nationalities for Americans to remain loyal to one side or the other. Do I need to remind you of the sides of the war? Okay, you got it? All right, good. Does anybody have any questions? All right, do you understand the reasons for American neutrality? All right, good deal. So now we're going to look at America kind of inching closer to war. We're not ready to declare war, but we're becoming more anti-German and pushing closer to the British. Okay. All right, so one thing that's going to start turning us against the Central Powers is German aggression. The Germans are committing heinous acts in neutral Belgium. So in order to get to France, Germany marched through Belgium. That's why the British joined the war. When they go into Belgium, they are going to burn down homes. They're going to torture civilians. They're going to kill civilians. We get these news reports. Americans read about these terrible things. So we start turning against the Germans. The more that we hear about the terrible things that they're doing, the more we turn against Germans. And Americans will send in Red Cross volunteers to help some of these victims of German aggression. Okay, questions? All right, so German aggression. The British are going to produce propaganda that will try to influence us to join the war. The British wanted us to join in and help them out. And we enjoyed close cultural, linguistic, and economic ties with Great Britain. Great Britain was our #1 trading partner. We had a very strong relationship with Great Britain. Wilson's mother was British. There were many Americans who had married into prominent British families. So we have close ties to the British. They want us to join in. So they're going to produce propaganda that's going to appear in American newspapers and trying to push us into war. And so this is an example of a British-produced propaganda piece trying to convince us that democracy was at stake if we did not join in the war. Okay, make sense? Okay, I can go back. Okay, so even though we're neutral and we're starting to inch a little bit closer into supporting the British, not joining the war, just kind of supporting the British, the American economy will be affected. You know, we thought we could stay neutral, but the world was a different place. There was too much international trade. We are going to stop trading with the Central Powers. Those are the bad guys. We're going to stop trading with the Central Powers. But we're going to start trading with the Allied Powers more. We're going to start selling them equipment. Our farmers are going to start selling them more and more of their goods. So we start trading more and more with the good guys and less with the bad guys. Do understand that the World War is going to create worldwide financial instability and that will affect the American economy. I also want you guys to know that American banks are going to lend money to both sides. This isn't the American government. This just happens to be banks that are located in America. They're going to make loans to both sides for them to fight the war. That's going to be really important when we get to the Great Depression. So store that away somewhere. But at the same time, I bring this up because is this really neutrality? Wilson said that we needed to be neutral in our hearts and in our minds. But Americans were all kind of moving closer and closer to supporting the Allied powers. Questions? Do you need a minute? All right, we'll move on. So now we're moving into the reasons why we actually get into the war. Okay, so one of the causes of American involvement in World War I is unrestricted submarine warfare. The Germans used submarines during World War I. They called them U-boats. The German U-boats not only attacked enemy ships, they attacked civilian ships. And one of the civilian ships that they attacked is going to be the Lusitania. The Lusitania was a cruise ship. It was leaving Great Britain. There were 128 Americans on it. A German U-boat fired upon it. It sunk. 128 Americans were killed. Wilson, who was president at the time, does not want us to jump into the war. And so Wilson will make a deal with the with the Germans, and it's called the Sussex Pledge. The Germans agree to restrict their submarine warfare. But in January of 1917, they started up again. So we declare war in April of that same year. So they sink the Lusitania. We still try to avoid war with them. And then they're going to start unrestricted submarine warfare again. Okay, questions, comments? Do you need a second? All right, I can tell. We're going to move into America declaring war. Wilson was president when the war started. He's going to run for a second term in 1916. And 1916, there you go. He ran on the slogan, "He kept us out of war." He wins the election. He's sworn in January of 1917, and soon after that, he'll ask for a declaration. Okay, do you have questions? And you will be asked on the test who was president during World War I. And it was Wilson. All throughout the war. Okay, so 2 reasons why America joins the war. One, unrestricted. Why America joins the war? Okay, so that's pretty funny. Okay, so there are 2 reasons why America joins the war. One is unrestricted German submarine warfare. The other is the Zimmermann Telegraph. The Zimmermann Telegraph was intercepted in March of 1917. It was a telegraph that was written by the German Foreign Secretary to Mexico. It asked Mexico to declare war on the U.S. They didn't, by the way. So the Germans are trying to convince Mexico to attack America. It's time for us to declare war on them. Okay. Lastly, yeah, I can go back. All right, I'm going to go back for a second. Okay, so one of the reasons why we didn't want to join war is because on the side of the Allied powers, there was a country that we didn't really think was a good country, and that's Russia. Russia was ruled by a czar, and he was autocratic. We did not want to join on the side of Russia. But in March of 1917, they have a revolution, and they pull out of the war. So that removes one of the main reasons why we didn't want to get involved in the war. Make sense? Can we move on, or do we need to wait? We can wait. Okay, so April 2nd, 1917, Wilson goes to Congress and he asked for a declaration of war, and they gave it to him. Wilson said that he wanted peace without victory. That means that he wanted to go in, win the war, but not take revenge. Peace without victory. Oh, he asked for a declaration of war. For a president to declare war, the president can't actually do it. Congress does it. And so he went to Congress and asked for a declaration of war. They gave it to him, and we declared war on Germany. And that is the beginning of American involvement in World War I. Do you have questions?